good to see you back. And
Great to be back. Yeah.
Saw you at Ascot during the year, and must have given you a great buzz to call Black Caviar at Royal Ascot this year.
It was fantastic, Bruce. I don't think I've ever seen an occasion at Royal Ascot like that, or just the whole scene when every jockey came out of the weighing room and all trainers, a lot of jump trainers were there. Everybody was around that mounting yard, and they were just looking at her. And it was an incredible moment, including the Queen herself.
We're happy she won. We're disappointed it wasn't the blazing victory we all hoped for.
In a way, I think it's all part of the legend, isn't it? You know, the fact that she's overcome adversity. She's gone there. She wasn't 100%. I think everybody agrees on that. And the fact that, you know, he's dropped his hands and she's got going again. It was all part of the drama. It was all part of the story, all part of the legend.
Well, now you're back to call a Melbourne Cup. And, Bruce, your Melbourne Cup history goes back a long way. As a young kid, passionate about the sport.
Yeah, no, for sure, living in Adelaide. And the first one I probably remember is the Centenary Cup in 1960. And, you know, all the controversy about Neville Selwood's right on Tulloch. I'm sure there are people in this room that must have been there. But, you know, the High Jinks, Olymp and Housey, I think, from memory, you know, the three New Zealanders over the line. Hey, just one thing about Black Caviar. The other thing, the runner-up's proven the form to be extremely good, hasn't Moonlight Cloud? Yeah. Who I think's at the Breeders' Cup this weekend, from memory.
Yeah, she's a real good type, and you know, I think everybody looks at it and says, you know, it was just one of the most dramatic finishes I think anyone's ever seen there.
Jim, you go back to the days of the true internationalisation of the Melbourne Cup, don't you? You were there at that meeting in Hong Kong to some extent, weren't you? You were involved in this.
Well, it was a pretty famous meeting. There was Rod Johnson sitting there, and also David Burke, the late David Burke, who was the chairman of the VRC at the time. And we were sitting in a little breakfast room. The great Jack Elliott was sitting over the other corner, shouting a few things at us. But it really was born out of an idea that you know, people had been showing a bit of interest, but the quarantine was impossible, and you know, that was what was discussed at that meeting, and a lot of steps were taken, a lot of things put in place, and the next thing you know, Dermot Weld and Lord Huntington arrived.
There was a year prior to that you tried to get them here.
Tried to get them here, and you know, Dermot, he won the Cesarewitch with Vintage Crop by 6 or 7 lengths, ridden by Walter Swinburne. And it was that day he said to us, pressmen, you know, he said, I'd really like to win the Melbourne Cup. Well, I think he was entered that year, and he got about 48 or something. So he would have made a mess of them if he had got in.
What do you make of him this year, starting to whinge already, or giving advice already? Is that a very, very good sign for Galileo's choice?
It's a very good sign for Dermot to be whinging. We will expect the taps to be, he'll be pleading with the track manager to put the taps on next week. But I know I just heard what you're saying about Galileo's choice before, and I know you knocked the jumpers, but there's not the same stigma attached to it over in the UK. You know, a horse like that is pretty typical of the type of horse that Dermot wants for his owners, and the reason why is because they have big festivals in Ireland, like the Galway Festival and all those, where Listowel and all sorts of other things, where you've got to have a dual-purpose horse to keep your owner interested. And he's been a bit of a freak the way he's been able to uncover them.
You fancy this horse, Galileo's choice?
I think it's good, but I'll go back to his run. He ran in the Supreme Novices Hurdle, which is a really big race at Cheltenham. He started 6 to 1. He was backed off the map, and he was disappointing. And that was a bit, you know, he should have run a lot better than he did. Now I know that was over jumps. I've seen him win at Leopardstown over 2,000. He was very impressive that day. Dermot was crowing a bit afterwards. He thought he'd absolutely cracked it because the horse was qualified. But we pointed out to him it was only 2,000 metres of the race, not 2,400. He said, "Well, there's no problem about that." He said, "Next week there's a race at Listowel." He said, "Over 2,400, and I can win that." The only problem was that the race at Listowel was for horses who'd never won a Group 3 race, and he'd just done that at Leopardstown.
So there's a bit of sense of Vintage Crop about it a year later.
Yeah, he's come back a year later, yeah.
Big week for you, Bruce, and the team at 7. How long's the preparation been for you to get ready for next week?
Probably
stops, I suppose.
So look, you know, during the footy season, I keep an eye on racing. Obviously, I love racing. It's my first love. And but really, once the grand final's over, I sort of, it's like studying for an exam, but it's a bloody better exam than the one I used to do, I can tell you. And hopefully I have more luck with this one, because I didn't do too well at school. But yeah, no, so the last month, get your head into the old history of the... I love the history of the Cup and all the things that went before it, and just listen to Jim here. I didn't know about that meeting in Hong Kong, you know. Yeah. That's all fascinating stuff. So Bruce, yeah, and just love it. Saturday's just a championship day, and then Tuesday has this incredible race, and then quieten down a bit on the Thursday, and then the last day's been built up, hasn't it, in the last few years? And I still think the last day's got more potential in it.
Yeah.
I'd love, you know, why not have an international day or something on the last day? We could really do something even extra with it. But I think the VRC have done a great job with the last day of the day. So look, for all the things I do on an annual basis, it's the most enjoyable for me, to be honest. It's my first love.